This is Assassin's Creed Unity. It was released in 2014 by Ubisoft and used new technologies to bring the Assassin's Creed series to the then new generation of consoles. In this video, we will explore the tools and the techniques that were used to bring this wonderful game to life. So, let's start learning. This footage is from a behind-the-scenes series that was done for IGN. We can see here a tool developed for their game engine, which was revolutionary. I know some of you might be thinking, well, we have Houdini and the PCG system in Unreal Engine, but this is over 10 years ago. So with this system, they could draw splines and populate it with building. Then they could cycle through a list of different types of structures. They could also adjust the height and shapes of the roofs to improve the flow of parkour. All that in a few clicks. This is the main reason why company invests in proprietary game engines, so that they can customize it according to the need of each game. Set dressing such a city with traditional means would have been too long and would have required too many devs. So this allows the team to work smarter. That's something college students don't really learn while attending school. As a pro artist, you have to be flexible, adaptable, and open-minded. You also have to be strong technically. Level designers, level artists, and environment artists have to adapt to new tools and workflows constantly. I think this is a great lesson to learn. As you are working on personal projects on your own, identify the tasks that are taking too long. Now you won't have access to a team of programmers that can create the scripts and the plugins that you wish for, but try coming up with creative solutions and workarounds. That will be your daily job when you work in a studio. So we can take a look here. Those are screenshots from the video, the behind the scene, which are very interesting. So all proprietary engines I've used are, and they don't have the exact same tool, but they have similar tools. And again, nowadays, Houdini has taken over, but again, that's like 11, 12 years ago. So that was really something new. And it was really because they were tackling a huge task, which was reproducing a version of Paris, which needed so many buildings. So they had to come up with a solution like that, right? So now, of course, you could recreate that tool. You could, like, the tool is accessible. A version of this, like a similar tool, is accessible, right? The PCG system in Unreal Engine. So, of course, those are the work. This is the work of programmers and tech artists. But as an environment artist, as a level artist, these things could be very interesting and fun to look into. This is not mandatory. This is not what you should do for your portfolio or anything like that. But it could go a long way. And you could learn a whole lot of things doing so, right? And then, well, if you want to work hard, you also do the actual job of an environment artist, right? Which is creating the kits. And then you do a simple system like that, and you populate a little village or a street of a busy city. And that could be a very fun and very relevant piece of portfolio. That could be a good project to work on. And here we have a glimpse of Anvil. So this is an old version, of course, but this is a game engine. You know, you have some free proprietary engine like the Red Kit engine, for The Witcher 3, for which I have a video. You can check on the channel showing how to get started. And honestly, they all look similar. And maybe for a good reason. This engine was used to produce The Witcher 3 in 2015. This is 1 year apart from Assassin's Creed Unity, right? So they look a little bit the same, but they are, of course, they're completely different. But you can learn a whole lot by working with game engines, and you don't have access to Anvil outside of Ubisoft, but you have the Red Kit engine. There's the Hammer engine for Half-Life 2, which I know it's even older. You have Far Cry map editors, and you can do a whole bunch of stuff. It's basically a light version of the engine. You have there is one for Elden Ring, which I am currently looking into. I will make a video on this soon. There are many. I know it's not that publicized or accessible, but you can start modding. You can do a whole bunch of stuff. There's the Creation engine from Bethesda. There are plenty for FPS shooter. So that could be very interesting. I know artists are kind of more told to work on modeling, texturing, sculpting, and of course that's what you should do. But as you improve those skills, which are the core skills of most jobs as a 3D artist, also if you don't have a job, and if you never had a job, doing these kind of things could be very beneficial, and it could set you apart as far as your portfolio goes, right? If they see that you did a fun, cute, nice little project and it's in an engine that's not Unreal or Unity, that could be cool. And of course, I know it's more comfortable with Unreal Engine 5 because it looks good, so good, right? But the job, like half the studios are using a proprietary engine. So making it look good in such an engine is even more impressive. So we're going to look at some other screenshots that I took. So this is just basically an illustration of this system, which is great, which is amazing. And of course, this is the work of, probably months and many people who contributed to create all those kits. And then, of course, the programmers, the tech artists, and everybody involved in making this possible. But, so my goal, my point here is that you won't be able to do such a project in just a few weeks, right? Or else you could do it, but it probably would be lower quality or something like that, right? Because you cannot go ahead and create 5-6 different kits. But just for the sake of it, you could take free environments on the marketplace. You can find some stuff from Megascans if you got the assets for free, and yeah, find free stuff and just go ahead. That could be a very interesting and fun project. So this is the kind of things, those are the kind of things that are part of the job. So we start with our first artist, Vincent Dérozier, who worked on the guild space. So as you can see, this is beautiful modular kit. This is an interior, and yeah, you can appreciate how it's done, right? We have the stairs here. We don't have the sides. The sides are probably other pieces, or on this wall here, you can see actually there's one side, and you probably have another asset that comes and covers it on the other side, or it was a narrow corridor. It's been a while since I've played Unity. So you have those generic pieces, and then those who are a little bit more specific for this environment. So you can see now with the complete set dressing, the lighting, everything. This is very cute, nice and cozy, and you can appreciate how it was done. That is really cool. So that was the guild space, and then you have the fencing room, which is very nice too. So you can see all the kits are different, right? So you got to study the architecture, and you got to understand the functionality and how you can reuse to the maximum, right? You have to be able to reuse the assets as much as possible. And you know, this piece, I want to take some time to discuss this piece. You see, like this is of course, a custom piece, which is specifically needed for that case, right? It's not necessarily gonna happen all the time, and every room will need something like that. And same for these. I mean, they're very specific, right? It's not just basic walls and just the door opening and this and that. They're very specific because of the architecture, because of how the beams can be inserted and all these things, right? And the columns and all of that. So you see the pieces, basically the Lego blocks, and then you see once assembled. So you see how the walls and the columns, how they fit together. So that's why it was not a square or rather rectangle shape. It's a more complex shape because you have those columns that would be inserted right here, right? So probably the measure for where to put the column was exactly there, and there was no need for having any polygons, any faces behind that. So that's why they were done this way. And then again, you can appreciate with the lighting and everything assembled, and with enough elements of decorative elements, it looks very, very nice, and you don't notice that much the modularity, right? You don't pay attention to it. It's a wide open space, and it makes sense. It's a fencing room. This is where people would basically train with weapons, right? With their swords. So you need room, and then on the side of the rooms you may have some, you know, sitting areas, the weapons here, and all of that nice stuff. So this is very beautiful, and then you see basically the other side. So very, very nice piece. And both of these projects, both of these mandates, let's call them this way, this is how you call them, tasks, not tasks, they're really mandates for artists. So the mandate was this room, and then the mandate was this room. So they were basically, he's sharing with us two of his mandates. So both are using a modular kit. So here we have the Luxembourg Palace, and we can see the work of two different artists. So we can see and appreciate Tyler DeBlock's modular kit for the interior. You can see ZBrush high poly sculpting to be used for creating trim and detail texture. So you can see all those fancy little details that went into the creation of this kit. You know, those are the interiors of royalty, of monarchs and very rich people. And I mean, it was this way, right? So when you have a historical setting in a game, you have to respect it as much as possible. And this was no small feat, like including all those details, making it work, you know, making the game performant, and not having such complex assets. That is really amazing. And you have those little detailed sculpts. This is how you create those little details. You bake them afterwards, of course. You reduce, make low poly. As you can see, this is like the resolution is not so great so that you can see such details, but it's definitely lower, much lower than what we can see here, right? And we can see some amazing screenshots, which they are also full of decorations and full of statues and this and that. It is really gorgeous, really, really gorgeous, and they really recreated it in really respecting the original. It's really, really fantastic work. The angles, the light also is absolutely phenomenal in this game. This was a new gen console for the PS4, right, for this era. And I remember playing it, and I was amazed by the lighting. The lighting was just absolutely incredible. And that's not the only thing that was incredible, but when the lighting is phenomenal, well, the odds are that the game is going to look good. And this one did not disappoint. It was really, really a feast on the eyes. If you are interested in learning how to apply those techniques that we're covering while analyzing those games, I have created a class in which I show everything step by step. I show all the techniques, all the tricks. There are no time lapse, nothing is done off screen. And I take the time to explain what we do and why we do it. I show the best practices, and we are covering a small environment from A to Z. We are showing every single step of how it's done on a professional production. So if you are interested, check it out. There's the link in the description, and there's a discount available with the code provided. Next, we have the work of Philippe Pelletier that worked mainly on props on this publication, at least. So a few examples of the work as a prop modeler on Assassin's Creed Unity. So you can see a very large boat, and you can see that it was done with a modular kit also. So you had the back, the middle, and the front. And then you had different type of things that could be added on the boat itself. So you can see here, and you can see one piece with the chimneys, which are abundant, and there are tons of different styles, because of course you spend a lot of time running on the rooftops. You have a stair, quite broken up stair, a stone stair. You have a little arc like this. Is it the door opening, or is it more like an archway? Like it can be reused, right? So it can easily be reused for different reasons. You have this little module which can be used to create variation, and definitely you can use different materials, so it looks quite different. So that's really clever. And then you have another piece which is kind of similar, but it's more like a balcony. So that's really cool. And then you have those little walls, those little walls for vegetation, right? Those little separators that are used in many gardens, and then some additional props. So very good stuff. And then you can see here, you can appreciate how smart they worked on these things, right? So it's a very simple mesh, and then you add a tileable material, and it looks very good. So that's how these things get done. And probably those planks were reused from somewhere else, right? And those also were reused here. The beams, the wood planks, this is something that there's like a common library, and then when they assemble modules, they can reuse a whole lot of those. And of course, the materials are reused here and there also. So really good, really interesting work. Here we have the work of Steve N, who's sharing a screenshot from a side mission from Assassin's Creed Unity. So we can see screenshots of the catacombs, and we can see here, we can see a statue that was used, and we are very lucky and fortunate to have a glimpse into the actual poly count. So you can see where the budget went, right? So that's always very interesting, and we could compare, right? So you see these damage parts. Let's focus on this one so we can identify here. So you see that they were done with geometry. So it was not decals, it was not faked, it was not baked. It was all done with geo. So So you have like a slightly different material that is assigned to these parts, and then they cut off these parts. So probably the same technique was used here. Yes, it's exactly the same. So aside from the damage part, we can appreciate how is it distributed, right? Which part have the most geo. You can see these walls, which are flat. Well, they are between pillars, so they have very little geo because there's no need. You just put a good material and it does the trick. Those here, those pillars, you see that they did put quite a bit of geo. Not even talking about the damage part on the bottom, but to show the blocks here, it's not displacement, it's not anything other than geo, right? So it's the same tileable material, but they have used much more geometry to outline a shape, and from this distance it looks, well, we can see from this distance this is not a straight line, right? You have these little grooves here. You can also see this pillar right here, which has well, a lot of destruction, right? Like basically the tiles, they're not tiles, they would be stones. They fell off, and underneath it shows a much more organic shape. Same here, same on this side, and you can see that it was done with geo every time. So more polys, more geometry, a more organic shape, and everything that's broken also receives a little bit more of the budget, if I may say. And this is super interesting. This is really like, this is the best learning resource. And this is from 10 years ago. Things have changed slightly, right? Like we don't have that many super hard edges like this. We have a lot of, we play with the normals. There's going to be, you know, a bevel, a chamfer, and then we edit the normals so that it looks smoother, even if it's meant to be quite hard edge. Usually this really reads as CG. So if you can round it off a little bit, it is already much better. And by today's standards, we can afford a much bigger budget. And this usually is, it's like, unless it's mobile or VR, you're gonna see it in most productions. So this is something that changed, but still for a quite big open world, this is surprising to see. But those assets probably they were not reused that much, and probably there was a loading when the player would go into this location. So I suspect that this might have been treated slightly differently. And here we see from a different angle, but we can recognize the same assets. So this is very, very interesting. Always amazing to have an insight into, you know, these usually are like, I wouldn't say top secret, but it's kept on the wraps. It's studios don't like to show these things. Of course, before release, it's impossible. But even after the fact, now it's a bit more common with you know, since we have ArtStation and the art blasts, and artists are a little bit more aware of the importance of showing such things. But it really was not a standard practice 10 years ago. So that's really, really, really good to have. Now, here's one major feature from this game that is very impressive still to this day. Now, this feature is, of course, going from outside to inside and vice versa seamlessly, without any loading, without any problem, and you can do it super fast and constantly. And it's a huge city. So that was super impressive when the game released. And here's just a glimpse on how it's done, basically, all the engines can handle these kind of things, but the team made, and this is not this proprietary secret or anything like that, it's a guess on my part, considering what's available nowadays, right? But every interior that is accessible is managed with a volume that controls many things, among which the light and the loading of the assets. So everything that is not inside, this, I believe it's not visible here. Okay, when you are inside, you can see probably the light, but you don't see really outside. You don't see anything here. But from here, you have access to going outside and seeing outside. So the same thing can be said from here, right? From this perspective, you see, of course, everything outside, and you see this area of the inside part. So let me just change color. So it's a little bit, I don't like to use red. Let's use green. So this is a modular kit like we've been covering in the video and in all the other videos of open world games. So this is probably one asset, and you know, like everything that is about this house, the beam right here, whatever, those are all assets that are only loaded when the player is outside. What is inside now, let me go to actually, yes, let's use the red color. So now we can see it's quite dark in here in this case, but it's not always the case, by the way. Okay, there are in some cases you can see very clearly furniture, you can see the other wall, you can see a lot of things, right? So everything that is here is loaded while like in a very restricted angle of the camera of the player, if you will. So there is a portion of the interior environment that is loaded, and my educated guess is it's super low level of details. So any piece of furniture is just a few polygons. There is really nothing that costs a lot. And actually the thing that would cost a lot is the lighting. And those volumes, which are managing these interiors, are really all about the lighting. So this is the first screenshot. The second screenshot is immediately when you enter. You have to notice this. In a blink of a second, everything is dark. We could call it the eye adaptation. If you use Unreal Engine, you're familiar with that term, the eye adaptation. But if you notice in the video, it's honestly a bit ridiculous. It's like way too much. And yes, you can see in this case, the light of the day is very, very strong. It's probably middle of afternoon, super bright sun. And you get in there in the first second, it lasts 1 second. It is that dark. And then immediately after, this is what you see. So it's not like it's actually dark in there and the lights are not turned on. It's the trick that they're using. So the volume has set, like there's no global illumination at all. And honestly, there's probably no light at all. What you see is just a bleeding effect. I don't think it's the global illumination per se. It's just the effect of the light coming in from the windows. And then once the player is inside, this is after 1 second or 2 seconds, then the global illumination hits. There might be additional lights that are placed, and then you see like it's the day, right? And oh, I just noticed this window is open. It's not this one, it's not this one. It might be another one on the other side. It's totally probable because, you know, it really doesn't matter. But here is the trick. And once, and you see, let's go back to what color did we use here? Let's go back to blue. Something like that. well, we don't see anything from this angle, but if the player was to go there, you could probably see the outside, right? So here also, I mean, this is a door, so this is different. It's probably this one, I guess, because this one is a smaller window, right? It doesn't go all the way to the floor level. So it's not this one. And from here, you see there's an open window here. So my point is that from these locations, you can see the assets outside, but not all the assets of this building, right? So those pieces, those walls are separated in two. So there is the exterior part, which is loaded, which is visible here when you're outside. The interior part, which might share the same material, the same, part of a wood beam or whatever. This is probably not loaded once you are here. And the switch might be done. And then again, I haven't worked on the game. I'm not telling you this is exactly how it goes, but it's something similar to that. Okay, it might not be that it loads during this 1 second of darkness. I think this helps with like the magic, like creating the illusion, basically. Probably maybe the walls in this case, the interior walls, it's not a guarantee that they're not loaded already, but everything, and let me once more change color. Let's go for pink. So of course all the small props, but probably even this wall, which is in the middle and is absolutely not visible. Of course, these pieces of furniture, those small props, maybe the whole ceiling. This is not loaded at all when you're here, and you have no chance of seeing it. So this is not loaded. Then once you pass through the opening, which might be a door or a window, then everything gets dark. Most are already loaded while you approach. It's really a matter of distance, right? Like you approach, and there's this magic trick, which is at the right time, it actually gets to load. And then when you are here, it doesn't pop, right? So that's just a matter of timing and calculations and test and error, trial and error. But the fact that it's completely dark and it brightens up to its regular light level, this is helping with the illusion. And then maybe the walls, maybe the beams, maybe the big pieces are already loaded, but definitely all of those are, it's just a matter of when. Like they're not loaded when you're in the map, when you're far, that's for sure. When you approach, maybe then the interior wall, the ladder, the beams inside from this distance, they get loaded. Once you pass most of the props which are near the visible area, maybe I should have changed color for this one. Maybe everything visible here or even here or here, right? There are, this is how LODs work, it's with distance. Maybe here would be better to indicate it. So they load in succession and it's milliseconds so that you don't see anything popping in. Same for the characters. This character in the dark right now is probably so low poly that its face is not even more than, I don't know, 40, 50 polygons, even way less than that. It can be like so low. And then when the light turns on, then the LOD number, whatever, LOD 0, LOD 1, they pop up. So this is how they could execute this fantastic trick. And if you have not played the game, you have to try it just for that sake of this phenomenon. And this is a big deal when you're an environment artist, a level artist, managing collisions for gameplay, managing volts, managing, all the bugs associated to these things. But the loading things, I mean, if you work on a smaller production, some of it will be on you. But when you work on AAA titles, these things are handled by systems, right? So this is from it's probably one part of the system, the building generator system. One part of it might be, oh, this building is enterable. So there are additional controls to be had, and it has to be handled in a different way, right? So this is fascinating, and this is not coming from a behind the scene video of Ubisoft. I never heard a specific explanation about that, but just studying other games, other open world games with interiors, and you can seamlessly, no loading, right? There's no door opening, then it loads, which is the traditional way. This is absolutely seamless, and you can be very fast about it, and that's one of the features of the game. One of the very cool features is that you can just escape, right? And you can just run through a house. And it's very cinematographic. Like it looks like almost comedic, but like it's like a crazy adventure movies. And you get this feeling that you can just go anywhere and it's fast. You're not interrupted. You don't need to go around or over. You can go through the buildings. And this is just awesome. And the way that they handled it is just so smooth. It's just an amazing feature. And I thought I would do my best to try to explain how it works. Finally, we have the work of Michael Hong, which describes his experience this way. So he was a senior environment artist and map lead on Assassin's Creed Unity and had several tasks which included managing an art team, world building, level art, landmark construction, terrain work, modeling and texturing. I also assisted with the art direction of my level and base lighting passes. I worked on the Jacobin Raid Church along with a section of Le Quartier Latin district. Here's a collection of some of my contribution to the game, which released originally in 2014. So his tasks were I mean, it was quite a lot. He was busy, certainly busy. So here we have the groups or the assembled buildings, which of course are using modular kits, modular pieces from kits. And we can appreciate different variations using the same kit, of course. And I really like to show these. I really like when the artists are showing these out of context, because you can see here from this angle, this is completely, it's stylable, but it's completely repeated, right? But it really doesn't matter, because most probably this is going to be stuck to, in most cases, going to be stuck to another building, right? So it's the facade, it's this other side that matters. And in the case of if the other building would be lower or much lower, it's still acceptable. There could be a case to use either decals, vertex painting, or just props placement, so that it doesn't show like such in repetitive patterns, right? But other than that, it's great. And I remember playing this game when it released, and I remember just going on the rooftops and like going from the previous games, which at the time were, well, Assassin's Creed 3 was just, you know, the one directly before, and then Revelation and all these good games. But I remember like the increase of budget in geometry. I remember like just like how much the roofs were not completely straight piece of geometry. I was amazed, and I was climbing all these buildings. I was like, how could they manage this in such a bigger city than the previous games, right? So this is very, very good to see here, and then we can see in context, and you see for these parts on the side which doesn't have windows or anything like that, they add wood beams, and then another module comes along, and then some decals, and they blend the materials differently, so it looks very, very good. And here you see other types of buildings. I selected some very cool angles, some very nice, and they're not necessarily from the same kit of building, but this one is just a variation on the color. Very, very interesting work. Here is from this is from the Jacobin Raid. So yeah, he was busy with the same tasks. And here you can see the church, which is quite imposing. It's very good to see it this way with the very beautiful lighting in the engine like this. So you can see it assembled, and then you can see it in context with all the decoration and all the surrounding area, all the surrounding props, the vegetation and everything, and it looks really, really good. And of course, all the gameplay assets which are connecting, from different other buildings. So very beautiful work. So let's go back to our main feature, which are the modular pieces. So I have many other videos. I have almost all the Assassin's Creeds covered. I have breakdowns showing the work of the artists, featuring all their amazing work, modular kit, trim sheets, materials, props, vegetation. And you have to remember that this is the work of a very large team, and this is really the best learning resources. So if you've made it this far into the video, please take a look at my other videos. You should be interested also by the other Assassin's Creed breakdowns, along with the other games that I'm covering. So thank you very much.